Welcome to Elevate Your Event, your favorite podcast for transforming fundraising events. Join us weekly for expert tips and creative ideas to make your next event a standout success.
Want to see a significant increase in donations and engagement on your nonprofit website? In this episode, we delve into the game-changing strategies for nonprofit websites, featuring insights from Monica Pitts of May Create, Jeff Porter, founder and CEO of Handbid, and Stephanie Mason, Handbid's Director of Product Development. Elevate your digital presence, drive engagement, and communicate your mission effectively with these tips.
Welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast, where Stephanie's going to do the intro this time because she just gave me all this advice on how to intro this podcast. So Stephanie, welcome everybody. Come on.
Welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast.
Oh, we are so pleased to have Monica with us. We're going to talk about marketing and branding and website design and how to break your website. I think we're going to have to throw that one in there.
Yeah. I like that one.
Because we've got
that happens a lot.
Yeah, we got some folks on our staff that are pretty good at that. So anyway, but Monica, thanks for joining us. And so tell us a little bit about your company. It's May Create.
Yeah, you said it right. Good for you.
Awesome. So tell us what you guys do and kind of how you got started, and and basically I think we'll at some point dive into kind of what you guys do for nonprofits and events, but give us the whole story to start.
Well, I have a degree in agriculture.
Awesome.
Yep, I put it to really good work building websites for people. I started my company because I was working for a marketing agency, and every day I would walk up the steps. And I was like, why am I walking up these steps? Why am I walking into this building? It's horrible. And then one day I was like, I'm just not going to anymore. And my mom took me on a walk and she said, honey, there is no time like the present to be hungry. I was 25 and that was 18 years ago. And she was right. She's like, you can live off peanut butter right now. It doesn't matter. And so she's like, start your own business, do it. And so I did.
Awesome.
And I called up a local business and I was like, hey, I hear you guys need somebody to help you out with your stuff. And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, I'll be your independent contractor. And they were like, okay. And that was my first client.
Nice.
Yeah. So years later, we still build websites and we've dabbled in all kinds of other different types of online marketing and then quit doing them because what we really want to do is websites. And so, yeah, there you go. Websites.
Awesome. And so do you do any aspect of the branding prior to the website, or are you working specifically with people that show up with a design and a brand and say, build this for me? Or
most of our clients show up with a design and a brand, but we do have clients that show up without one. We do not tout ourselves as branding consultants. We are definitely designers, so we can make logos.
Yeah.
And we have reasons why we make them certain ways. And we have a cool process that we take people through, but it's not our first point of entry for clients. I feel like I really love people to trust us to guide them through this logo building process. So usually we start with the website. And then once they see the website with their terrible logo on it, they're like, we need a new logo. And we're like, yes. And so then they trust us and we take them through the logo design process too.
And you know how attached nonprofits get to their logos. Yes. Oh, I've got some PTSD around that with some of my old charities. So we kind of did the same thing. I remember that. I'm like, can we start with your logo? No.
Yeah. For a board, designing logos for boards, it's like there's a special place in heaven for designers who do that well, because it is tricky.
Oh, it is, man.
All the opinions.
Yes. There's nothing like having your board design your logo or give you input on your brand or give you input on your event for that matter. God bless boards. We had a whole podcast episode on boards, right? Yes. And the support groups around them. And I get to say all these things because I'm on a number of nonprofit boards. So I get to see the function and the dysfunction of them. So, but good for you guys. So, I mean, it's got to feel good, right? I mean, you're helping a nonprofit, kind of really, reinvent themselves in certain ways, at least to the public, right? With how they present themselves. And So talk a little bit about, just at a high level, what your process is and kind of what you walk them through. And, we talked, obviously, there's an element of, maybe colors and brand and design, but then there's obviously the content as well, and then how the website should flow. And then we'll kind of get a little technical in a little bit, but start with that, and then we can dive into what technologies you use and how you integrate it with other stuff and payments and all that kind of fun stuff.
So we believe that a website is a marriage of form and function. So it has to be beautiful and inspiring, but it also has to work. So it has to work for you, and it has to work for the people on the website. And I feel like where nonprofits get stuck is, well, actually everywhere it stinks, because I get it. You get a volunteer, you're like, okay, well, this volunteer seems techie enough, or they seem creative enough. And so they're going to build the website. And then you end up with a website, which is great because you have one. It might not do everything you want it to do, but you have a website. And then when that person moves on, then you have a website that no one knows how to use and nobody can even figure out how to log into. So one of our favorite things to do for nonprofits is, first off, help them plan the site that they really need, that does the things that it's supposed to do for them. That's easy for them to use and looks beautiful. But then also, when their webmaster moves on, they still have us. And so the next person comes back to us and they're like, how do I log in? And we're like, right here, and here's your training video, and here's the person that you can talk to whenever you need help. And so we really try to just kind of get them all taken care of in that way. So that way they're not just wandering around in the dark. And then, because the worst thing that can happen is that they just start all over again.
Yeah.
And that's such an energy suck. And they should be focusing on other things, not redesigning their website a million times. So.
And why do you think they go to that as their go-to solution, right? Because I've been on a number of boards where it's like, I think we need to redesign the website. I'm like, well, let's identify what the problems are first we're trying to solve. But, in a lot of cases, they just kind of jump to that, don't they?
Yeah. I always tell them there's certain things a website can't fix.
Right.
and I don't fix those things either.
Right.
I'm a web designer.
But let me introduce you to a few counselors that might be able to help.
Yes. Or consultants.
That's right.
Exactly. I'll be like, you need to go talk to my friend over here who's a consultant who's going to get you on par, and then come back to me and we'll fix the stuff on your website. I don't know. I think maybe the website's just the big shiny object. It's the communication portal. And so people think if they fix that, then the rest of it will come. But sometimes the things that you need to fix are not as obvious.
Right. No, it makes sense. And so how much are you guys getting involved in the actual content and kind of what the messaging is, and, how you take them from one page to the next, and the menu structure and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we plan all that out for them. And some of them we write every single word for the site. So yeah, we're very involved in it, and we're very passionate about how it works, how easy it is to use, how it loads. What people are going to feel when they're there, and if they're going to get to the next spot. And so we're always thinking our way through it. And we have a multi-step review process too, that we go through internally before we even send stuff out to clients, because our clients don't always know. They see it and they're like, pretty done.
Yep.
And so I'm like, well, pretty done is great. But we also need to have it be strategic and beautiful and functional. And so we have multiple people in our office that look over the stuff before it goes out to the client. So that way they can say pretty done, and we know it's actually very done and very effective.
Yeah, it's called quality assurance.
Yeah, especially on the function side. I know I'm on a board. We just got a new website. It is prettier, but the function is not any better than the previous website. And so, I wasn't a part of that process, but there's definitely a gap in it, because I'm like, yeah, it looks prettier, but the things that were missing from the previous version are still missing.
Right.
Yeah. And you see that a lot. And it's because designers are designers and developers are developers. And when you can merge them, I have multiple that are hybrid humans on my staff, but you also have to have a level of experience to get it to all come together. And a lot of the times what I find when I take over websites is I'm like, oh, look, they didn't know how to do that. And so they did it this way. Well, poop. And that's not coming over well. So I find that sometimes we have designers who are really amazing, but they don't know how to do the development. And so they'll gloss over it and do it another way that they can figure out, but that doesn't necessarily make it the right way, which makes it tricky.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. And now, do you start with their old website? Are you analyzing it? Are you doing heat maps on it? Are you trying to figure out like where people are going and then using that to kind of inform the changes you make? Or?
Yeah, I don't use heat maps a lot of the time. Sometimes I do. It just depends on how big the organization is, right? If you got a ton of traffic coming in, then that might be something that I put in place. A lot of the times I'm looking at their old website and going, okay, well, what do you like about it? And also, what do you hate about it? What doesn't work? I look through the individual pages and click on every loving thing and figure out how I feel going through it as like a new person. And then I go to their tracking, so their Google Analytics and their Google Search Console, and I'm looking through all that information and going, are they ranking for the right words? Are people going to the pages I think that they would go to? Are they staying on them long enough? Like, what are they doing? And so I just try to like make this picture in my head of what's actually happening out there between data and pictures. And then from there, I can be like, oh, did you know the most important thing on this page to people is actually nestled all the way in the bottom left or right corner, and we can move it all the way up to the top and give it to people? Or perhaps, since it's the third most visited page on your site, we just put a link to it on the homepage.
Right.
We can do that.
Yeah.
So it's good fun.
It's so helpful, you know, and like you as you're mentioning, like using data to kind of inform where like things need to go. I think look, this is probably for-profit businesses too. Don't always realize they don't know that information. They just kind of take their best guess, or they kind of browse the site how they would normally browse it because they know their business so well, and they don't really understand how people find things. Right?
Yeah, all the time. Happens all the time. Yes, I think that also not just the browsing, but the understanding of the copy. I think that also happens with nonprofits and businesses. You know, we're so familiar with our vocabulary. It makes sense to us, but it doesn't make sense to, you know, Billy Bob who comes to your site for the first time.
Right. And who's your audience?
Yes.
Like so when I was with FPWR, which is the Foundation for Prader-Willi Research, we debated this a lot because you have different audiences coming to your site and you need to understand who they are and kind of what jobs they need to do, right? So we were a research organization issuing grants. So people would come to our site that were researchers and they needed to find the latest grant information. Then you have donors that come to your site and they know somebody with Prader-Willi and they just want to donate to a research project. And then you have families, maybe even a new diagnosis, like what is this disorder and how is it going to impact me? And so you kind of have to have those windows on the homepage, right? This is what we talked about. Like, you know, and it was funny because like no one really kind of thought about it that way until we really kind of started to drill down and say, yes, we need to kind of funnel people to the right spot.
Yeah, so true.
Because what does everybody do on their website? Like Donald Miller used to say, they talk about themselves, right? Look at us. Yeah. We were founded in 2005. Look at how great we are. And people are like, I don't really like. I might care about you at some point, but I have some information I need.
Yeah,
right?
Not yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to say that, especially for nonprofits, people are either going because they know what they need, or they don't know what they need and they only know who they are.
Right.
And so if your audience is someone who doesn't specifically know what they need, then we want to talk to our different audiences based on who they are and inform them of what you can do to meet their needs, especially if you have an organization where people don't really understand your area of advocacy, or they don't understand what you do because you have a new idea or maybe a new approach. They don't know that you solve this problem for the universe or that the problem even exists. And so in those cases, you need to add additional content of your website explaining why you exist, because it's not obvious, and also talking to those individual humans about what you can do to help them based on who they are, because they just don't know what they need yet.
Totally makes sense. You know, we're talking about this with events as well, you know, to kind of dive into that. It's like getting to the event site. It's like, who's coming and what do they need, right? Like what job do they need to complete? And so don't make it hard. Like, I mean, some of these event sites, I went to one the other day. It was beautiful. Like, but it was like this long intro video and I was like, I just need to buy tickets.
Yeah.
It's like, I already know I'm going. So how do I get past all this riffraff so I can just get to the ticket page? Or I'm not coming to the event. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I just need to make my donation and move on, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of things on those event pages that you can think through, that you can inadvertently answer your audience's questions without even having to like directly answer them. So for example, like if you're hosting an event and it may be a more formal event, people don't know what to wear.
Yeah.
So just post pictures of past events. That's all you have to do. Like, then they can see, oh, look, people are in cocktail dresses or they're in formal gowns, because you want them to feel super comfortable and like empowered when they come to your event. You don't want them to feel uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, why are we worrying about wardrobe? Right. But you can do little things on your event page like that. Or like, think about it. Maybe parking is really a pain. Maybe it's the middle of the winter and it's going to be icy. So do you have a coat check? Do you have a valet parking? Do you have the ability for people to drop off people at the door? And then is there a meetup area? How does parking work? Are there shuttles? Do you need to give them a map? So just think through these things and then put that crap on the website so that way everybody can find it. And they're not just like, I made grandma walk a mile and a half
I know.
in the ice with their walker. That's not good.
Well, I mean, there's kind of two steps to what you said there, right? The first one is I have to actually think about those things.
Yes.
And then I actually have to provide answers and give them out to people. And so, we did an event masterclass years ago, and we kind of took a lot of the things that we had witnessed at events over the years and said, like, it actually kind of surprises me the things that people don't necessarily do, like think about what it's going to be like to drive downtown Denver on a Friday at 6 and say, we start at 6:00 sharp on a Friday and it's, black tie. Well, that's just not going to happen for people who get off work at 5, right? So just little things like that, or like, oh, where are they going to park? We used to, I mean, look, I've made some of those mistakes at my own events sometimes because you get so wrapped up in it and you're like, you're just going to park there, right? But you don't realize that what's over there on a Tuesday is not available on a Saturday or vice versa. So yeah, I love what you're saying. It's like, make it, front and center. The stuff that I need to know right away is front and center.
Yep. It's just got to be easy. Even the registration form, like there's times where people, and they subscribe to the site that's like really, really, really fancy. And then the registration form makes no sense. And you get to it and you're like, I don't know what this is. I don't understand why I have to create an account. I don't understand why I have to give my blood type. I am freaked out. I am leaving. I'm not signing up, know? And then on the other hand, you could have went way simpler. Just have people sign up. Just, it has to be like super easy. If it's not easy, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's like as simple as I can say it.
And if you need certain information, you kind of have to explain to people why.
I agree.
Because sometimes there's a reason for it, right? I mean, other times there's not, right? The stuff that I hate, is, especially around event registration or just, kind of the whole process of like getting through a task is you make it onerous and then you make it even more onerous because it's like, okay, I've now created your account. I was like, I'm just trying to buy tickets. Okay. Created your account. Now go to your email. So leave this entire flow that you're in, go to your email and click on this verification code.
Yep.
And think, oh, and I love that. There was one site once, I should not pick on, they're one of our competitors, but it was funny. They're like, it could take up to 30 minutes to get this code.
What?
I was like, I'm actually at the event. So for the next 30 minutes, I can't bid in this auction because I'm not going to get this email code. So just stuff like that bothers me. I think make it simple. But I mean, obviously, if there's a security reason or a data privacy reason that you need certain information, totally get it. And the rules are changing daily. But, make it as simple as you legally and I would say practically can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, as the organization, you're going to want some information about who's coming because you want to keep in touch with those people. You want to nurture those relationships, and you want to provide them with information going forward. So you will want some information. That's fantastic, but you got to be clear about it, and it's got to be in a common sense, logical way.
Well, and your developers are no different than ours in the sense that they probably are like, I just have to solve this problem. I got to complete this task. And, once they're done building it, like the best thing to make them do is to actually go back and use it. As like, people are like, why do you take your developers to your events? I'm like, because I'm going to make them check in 100 people and then they're going to get it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And I can't tell you the number of times where they've been like, no, this was the best way, the most time effective way to solve the problem. I'm like, I am trying to train a client how to use this site, and I just had to enter the same information 4 places. That does not work for me.
No, exactly.
No. We just have to redo this because this is not happening.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you say. I'm not taking no for an answer on that one. We're fixing it.
Exactly.
It's got to be easy.
So, so do you guys do all of the development and hosting as well, or do you set them up with a host or install it for them, maintain it for them? All of the above?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, we don't have a data center anymore. We used to have one, and then we actually demerged with the company that managed the data center. So we ended up moving to another hosting platform, and we love them. They're super responsive. So we have a relationship with a hosting platform that we like set everything up on, and they pay us for hosting. So that way they don't have to deal with it, basically.
Yep.
And then when something is a challenge, then it's our responsibility to fix it and get it right for them. And then we set it up. We have what we call our safe site plan, where we go in and update everything for them and take care of all their plugins and stuff, because they get to use all of like the professional level like programs and so forth that we buy.
No, that's nice. It's hard to keep up with all those plugin updates, and the security vulnerability alerts that come out. So that's nice you guys do that for your clients.
Yep. And then they call us when they need us most of the time is what happens. Annually, we go through most of our websites and we're like, hey, did you know that you still have a Twitter icon when you used to have an X icon? Or like, hey, did you know that your XYZ is now busted because it hasn't been updated in 5 years? Because stuff just happens. Like Bootstrap updates and like all of the code updates and everything changes. Google changes. And then you're like, ugh. So we just make sure that we keep in contact with everybody. And when everything changes, then it makes for some really interesting weeks for our staff.
I bet. Now, for nonprofits, are you, let's talk about kind of the commerce side of this. So are you helping them integrate with a CRM? Are you putting up like your own donation pages, or typically what do you have working there for your clients?
The first thing that it's different for everyone, because I believe that there's like no one solution, right? It has to be the right thing for you. So some nonprofits come to us and they already have a donor management system and it's got to interface with something. Some of those donor management systems have online donation forms that I can just put the code into their website for. Some of them have like beautiful ready-made donation pages that we can just link out to. So it all depends. And then others, like say they don't have a donor management system, but they're thinking about one and they just need something really simple and they want it in their website. Then there's a plugin that we work with called GiveWP that does a great job for that as an entry-level donor management system. And then for others, they're like, we don't care. We are just going to use spreadsheet. That's how we manage everything. And for them, we're just going to like hook them up with a Stripe account and build all their forms for them and make sure that it sends to everybody and that they can do everything they need. So it's really just, once again, like that marriage of form and function. Like I want you to have something that's beautiful and slick, and it has to fit in with what you've got and where you're at growing your organization.
No, that's awesome. And sounds right. Right. I mean, because it's interesting to us to see kind of where people are at, everything from, a Google spreadsheet to, something, elaborate like a Blackbot or a Bloomerang or something. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, we see everything in between as well. It's just, it's interesting. Like I just got out of a board meeting before coming to this podcast, and we were talking about the simplicity of making a donation. We were just talking about it with us, like the simplicity of finding what I need on an event page. And the complaint, because we're just a regional chapter of a very large national organization who is imposing a really onerous donation form, right? That's just tough. I mean, looking through, and you have to fill it out every time. It's not like it even remembers you. And I threw out this concept, which everybody got excited about, the concept of like a one-click donation. I'm like, we've got to get to like a one-click donation.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 about nonprofit websites. Be sure to join us for part 2 as we discuss some practical tips and do's and don'ts for nonprofit websites. If you enjoyed our show, please take a moment to leave us a review. You can find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content. And if you're a fan of video, check us out on YouTube. Until next time, happy fundraising.